7 o'clock, I'll call this meeting to order. We do have a quorum. Item 3 is to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Aaron made the motion and Erica second, right? Okay. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Can we raise your hand? Oh, good. Motion passes. 4 is review the board's common message. The Lorain School Board strives to provide an environment where students can be happy, healthy, and awesome in their educational pursuits. We believe that each student can graduate ready for college and or a career. To do so, we will provide a safe, nurturing, and engaging learning environment that meets individual wellness, social, and emotional needs. Item 5 is any district residents who would like to speak to any item on the agenda. 6 is Mental Health Day for students. Morgan, you're on.
Right over here. Right there.
Hi, my name is Morgan Upworth. I'm a senior, and I took senior seminar last semester, and I want to go into therapy and stuff. So I tried picking a project that would benefit towards that. So I've heard of other states implementing mental health days for students and stuff, and I thought that'd be a really cool idea for Owen. So my project was mental health days for students. So one mental health day would be just for testers to see kind of how it would run. I was gonna have one day a semester that the student would be able to take their day for mental health, and just like being sick, a parent or guardian would still have to call them out. And I was trying to get it to that in Infinite Campus, like how I would say Parents' Choice or something, that it would go under mental health, so that the staff and stuff would know that it's mental health reasons and not just Parents' Choice. The student would be responsible for contacting all teachers to say if they would be gone, so the teachers would know. Students would still get their homework sent out to them, and I also had a form I made. I have papers, sorry. Well, I did a policy form. I made that up, and then I also did a form that the students would have to fill out, which is the second paper before they came back, and it just asked questions about how their day benefited them and why they took their day, and if they needed to meet with the guidance counselors, because the one thing that I really want to do is that if they are really struggling, I want them to then have to go to the guidance office and talk with them, so that they can kind of work on coping skills, if they're stressed with homework or something, and that's why they took their day off. I want them to learn coping skills that they could do, that they could take with them throughout high school and in the real world, so it could be easier for them as well. Thank you. So why I think this would be beneficial is that it's creating more awareness about mental health in schools. I know we have our posters and all that, but I feel actually making doing a step. And I've talked to students too, and they think that this would bring a lot of awareness towards mental health for them. And I feel it also has students become more aware of their feelings and just their stress levels and how they are feeling. And I also think it makes them hold themselves accountable, because on their off days, they still have tasks to do, they still have to fill out their form, they still have to email teachers, and also time management skills could be implemented as well, because it is recommended that they're still working on homework, but also finding a balance, what relaxes them, what's going to help them mentally. And also, since the school would be notified that they're taking their day off because of mental health. It's also, and their guardian has to call them in and say that like it's for mental health reasons. It's gonna open up conversations with teachers and also parents about them obviously like not like struggling or not doing well with mental health, so it can help at home too. And I did find a statistic that from Centers for Disease Control and Prevention that the proportion of mental health related emergency department visits for children aged 5 to 11 and 12 to 17 increased by 24% and 31% in 2020 compared to 2019. So it's definitely gone up a good amount of like people having like mental health issues and obviously having to go to like the hospital and stuff for that. So how meeting with the counselors would work, if they did on their form say that like they were struggling a lot or needed or wanted to meet with the counselors, they would have a week from returning from their day to meet with their counselors and set up an appointment. And I did come up with some questions, but also like the guidance counselors would take over from there and kind of like help them out like what they would need. So some of the questions was just why did they take their mental health day, and if they knew any coping skills that would help them, because some people know like what helps them relieve stress, but some people have no idea. So how did like the day help you, and who are like some people that you can go to that if you were struggling that you would be able to trust, and also if like they know what's making them feel this way or what's the cause of it. And then I also found some resources that like therapists near us or online resources that were good if students like wanted different resources, or if they didn't want to talk to like our guidance counselor, if they could still get those resources. So on the next slide, it would just be like my resources that I found. And then another statistic that I found was the National Alliance on Mental Health stated that 1 in 6 children aged 6 to 17 experience a mental health disorder each year, and 50% of the all lifetime mental health begins by age 14. So I thought that was kind of crazy that like at age 14, that like one can have like an illness or mental illness that just like stays with them. So I feel like if we implement it in schools, I feel like maybe we can kind of help them when they're young to like deal with it, or just make it that it's okay to like struggle sometimes, and maybe that'll lower the percentage of that. You can change it. Thank you. So how homework would work, I would still want it to be sent out if it can be, if it's like online, because I know like me, if I took my day, I would probably most likely want to like work on homework to like get ahead and stuff. So I still want to give the opportunity for kids to work on homework. However, if they just like are just really stressed about school and just need that day off, they would have 2 days to get that homework turned in. So say if I took my mental health day on a Wednesday, my homework wouldn't be due until that Friday. But if I got homework prior to my day off, so say Tuesday, I had homework, it would still be due Thursday. Just like missing a test or quiz, like you'd have to talk to your teacher, make it up, and just see what works best to come in. You can go to the next slide.
I didn't touch anything.
Do you want me to continue?
You can go ahead.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so if kids were in sports, if they missed the day, I wouldn't have them have to make up for practice. Like I know for volleyball or like football, like you have to do workouts and stuff. I wouldn't want them to like miss or have to make it up if they miss, because I feel like they shouldn't be punished for missing because like their mental health isn't good. Like I feel like that's just like teaching them that they shouldn't have like be struggling or anything. So I feel like that day should just be okay. I also want to give the option to participate in practice or game that day, because some people going to sports practice is their stress reliever and it helps them, and also it's proven that like getting up and working out is good for mental health. So I want to give them the option to go or not. You can change it. So I wanted to, if it like would get passed or anything, to kind of like get it across like the school. I was gonna see if I could hold an assembly with the school and kind of talk about like the main importance of it. And I know I talked to Kane and like she suggested like getting a therapist to come in and talk about like how important mental health is and like how like this could actually help people. So just like some suggestions on how the day should consist of would be like splitting time between like social media and relaxing. Like yes, you should like they should be going on social media and like all that, but not spending their whole day just on social media. Also, we're trying to work on some homework because it will make you less stressed and not like make you fall behind so much. And just getting up, moving, exercise, moving your body, not laying in bed all day. Spending time outdoors if it's nice out, or just doing stuff that anyone likes to do, baking, cooking, drawing, whatever, just relaxes them, trying to like find a good activity that works for them. You can change it. What a mental health day is that it's not just a day to miss and or to like avoid homework or a quiz, or spend your day just like laying in bed all day or sleeping all day. Like, yeah, maybe like taking naps here and there, but also just trying to, again, like time management, like use your skills to try and find different activities that are actually going to help like their mental health and stuff. And it's also a privilege, so it can be taken away from people. And if it's used in the wrong context, like it's not actually going to help them. And in the end, like they're honestly just hurting themselves. But I think that if we don't implement it for like the little handful of people that might use it wrong, which isn't going to benefit, like I feel like we should implement it for like maybe that one person that truly needs it, and like will actually help them, and they can take like what they learn into the real world and like out of high school. You can change it. So these are the states that implement it so far. I did talk to a school in Illinois because I was trying to get like the homework situation all under so like kids wouldn't fall behind. And so I called the school in Illinois and they said that they just implemented it around the beginning of the year, so they still were like hazy about everything and they haven't really met with like their school board to really talk about it, so that was not very helpful. But I think a couple schools also have implemented from this. And then the chart is of like how bad mental health is, like rated. The yellow is highest, like bad like mental health, toward like the lowest, like the blue is like low risk of mental health. So we're 4. So like Iowa is like has bad mental health. And so I feel like if we implement this, hopefully we could be one of the states out there, and it could hopefully help us in the long run. So I met with Hadley a lot on this project, and like got his thoughts and opinions. I met with like some teachers and some students, and I've also met with the guidance counselors and see if like they'd be willing to like take their time to like help like kids and like kind of work with me on this, and they said that like they would and stuff. So yeah, I hope it can get implemented, and I'm always open to new ideas and whatever anyone thinks. So yeah, any questions?
Are you thinking of this for like freshmen?
Yeah.
Or all high school, all
Yeah.
grades?
Yeah, just
Okay,
high school.
right.
No middle school,
Okay.
like that.
Morgan, what do you tell a student that uses their mental health day August 30th, but really needs one in November?
Yeah. I know.
Too bad, so sad.
No, I know when I met with you, that like we talked about this and stuff. And I feel like that maybe if it does go out good, maybe we can give them like multiple like days, however. But I feel like the main thing is like knowing that like they have someone to talk to and stuff, so maybe it could still go with as mental health day. And when they call in or something and then they still have to talk to the guidance counselor. I don't know if that made any sense.
They could go to their family doctor
I
a
found it.
second time. Get a doctor's excuse.
Mhm.
If it was that concern.
So would this just be a label of a day they could already take already, or is this gonna be an add-on day?
Like for the school, like,
No, for days that they can be gone.
well, I was gonna have it be like, yeah, like its own like separate.
Yeah, so we don't, at the high school, the only, students are allotted so many like college visits days. And then other than that, it's just, there's no real accounting other than they're here or they're not, and it's either excused or unexcused based on doctor's notes, parents, those kind of things. So I think in a practical sense, Morgan's proposal would add something that we'd have to account for and track that would give them an opportunity to basically take a personal day. It's meant for mental health, but that's essentially there would be no tracking on our side as if what it's for, other than I'm taking a mental health day. So it would be in addition to.
But they would be accountable to all these things that would be in there, which is better than just blowing a day off.
True. Which they're accountable to most of the time if they're gone anyway. So if they're sick, they're accountable to all the same things. I think the difference is some of the components that you can still go to practices, still go to games, those kind of things, which they can't do now.
It notifies the staff,
Correct.
It notifies the staff that maybe there's an issue, and they don't maybe have to start that conversation, the adult can start the conversation.
And then to answer your question about if someone was used August 31st but needed one in November, the direct correlation between mental health and physical health, which you could call in sick. So there would be.
Which I think, kind of like what Jacqueline was saying, I think when Morgan brought this to me, I think this is already happening. I think kids are already, parents are calling in. If they have parents that are supportive, if they don't, it's even more concerning, right? Because then there's no support system at home. But the difference is exactly that. There's no label. There's no way for us to know. I think there really are students who, and I think the other thing that it came from just in my interaction with students, there's some really high achieving students that aren't taking a day that probably should, because then it is causing other physical issues. And now they're sick not one day or out one day, but they're out 3 or 4 because stress in the body and all the things that are being released are happening. So it definitely is something I think that has a lot of merit, and I appreciate Morgan's hard work and effort. She's really thought through the different steps. What it looks like in practice, I don't really know, but I definitely am intrigued and really commend her for. She took it very, very seriously. It's very important to her. So.
Well, I think you want to add too that she was done with the class in January.
100%, yeah.
I mean, so she's passed the class and has met all the requirements.
Her diploma signed now.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she took it upon herself to continue this work because she feels so passionate about it. I will say that her work has sparked some internal conversations that we've had administratively. There are some hurdles for us to cross policy-wise, administratively, to make something like this happen. But it's certainly created conversation. At our district leadership team meeting on Wednesday, we looked at attendance data across all buildings over a 5-year span. And every building this year, our attendance is down. I would say significantly. It's 3 or 4 points down from what our average is, which is, I think, significant. And we have other conversations happening around doing an entire reevaluation of our attendance policies in general, not just this piece of it, but we have such a gotcha mentality with attendance that it prevents communication. People kind of hide behind the veil of parent choice or whatever, instead of, well, let's actually talk about what's going on, why you're not coming to school, and let's help solve those problems, whatever they are. If they're unexcused or excused, we can start working through those, but when you're hiding information from us, we can't help. And that's what's happening now, is that kids are taking mental health days without them being called that. But wouldn't we rather know, so we can employ our counselors, our at-risk coordinators, all the people we have a ton of resources, but they don't know what they don't know. And how do we start that feedback loop of getting that information to the right people and having those conversations? So those things have started, and we're working through some of them that's in the early stages, but I think that they'll be some significant changes that we bring to you guys to have more consideration for in the coming months and as we prepare for next school year. And we can thank Morgan for that work because it was her spark that got us talking about it.
We move on to reports, Miss Herring.
Alrighty, so we have one special recognition for this evening. Jillian Prouty received her state FFA degree last Monday. Is that 4/12? Gosh, that feels like a month ago. And that's really cool for her. That's one of the highest achievements an FFA student can receive. So kudos to Jillian. Obviously, we did not have a track meet tonight. Postponed to tomorrow if you're available to help. We'd love to have you. Nonetheless, we do have some celebrations. All of our teams, track, tennis, golf, have had one meet or match so far this spring. It's been crazy. So I won't take the time to read through, every single student that's up there. You can see it in the report, though. Our 8th grade girls won their first meet of the year over at Dyke New Hartford, and the 7th grade girls had a great first meet in beautiful weather. I believe Mr. Ain drove that bus for them.
They also won.
They killed it, and you can see all those winners.
No, I'm not saying that I did any running, but I definitely did some driving.
And we had a very successful home girls meet last Monday as well. And you can see the top 3 finishes up there for that. That night, the boys also ran in Jessup, and the top 3 finishes are there as well. So thank you to everyone in this room who volunteered for that and who will volunteer for those meets. We got 3 more to go. It takes a small village to run those meets. Tennis finally got out last week as well. The girls went up to Decorah. Morgan is one of those great tennis players. We have 13 girls out this season. And we have 6 boys out, and they opened at home First Independence last week. And we did postpone their meet tonight with Aplington Parkersburg, but they'll get out on the course again later this week. For golf, we started the season with a win for the girls over Waukon, and the boys started their season with a win over Sumner Fredericksburg, and the girls had a close meet with Sumner as well. Something really cool when I was debriefing that first meet with Coach Kennan is it was the first meet of the year for them, and he thinks that that's the lowest score they've ever had, which I still have to remind myself in golf, that's a good thing. I don't golf often, and so that's really cool to see coming out first meet of the season with the lowest score he's had since taking over the program. As far as music goes, we have large group on May 6th for the band. Choir has 2 big concerts in the next month. The show choir and alumni concert is this weekend, so it'll be a great show. It will be live streamed if you can't make it in person. And they're just gearing up to wrap up their years, and they've put in a ton of work this year. DECA leaves this Saturday to head down to Atlanta for nationals, and then BPA will take off in May for their nationals. And then, as always, there's a list of home events through, almost the end of the school year, which is crazy. We're in the home stretch. That's all I have.
Okay. Any questions? All right, Mr. McGinnis.
All right. So first things first, I just have to give a shout out to all of our 3rd and 4th grade students, teachers, and associates. They took their ISASS test this past week, and just the feedback I got from the adults is just the kids they really truly did their best. They didn't see any kids just clicking through answers and just trying to get done as quick as possible. So big shout out to all the people involved with 3rd and 4th grade just for all the hard work they put in all year long and just genuinely trying their best. Kindergarten Roundup, we set a date for Kindergarten Roundup, which will be May 4th from 5 to 6 o'clock. It'll be in person at Little Husky. And so that will include an informational portion for families, a building tour led by me, which will be enthralling, I'm sure. And then an opportunity for families to ask any questions that they might have. So if you know anybody who has a 4-year-old or 5-year-old who'd be looking to enter kindergarten next year, let them know May 4th is the date. Sabres training, I think I've talked about this, before, but basically it's speaking of mental health and social emotional. One thing that we're gonna do, at the elementary level is we're gonna have, our students and our teachers do this, social emotional screener. So it's kind of like our fast testing, but for the social emotional side of things. Cause we know that sometimes kids kind of suffer silently. And this is gonna help us to better identify them. So we're going to, kind of pilot it, in the spring here pretty soon, when the spring fast window opens up. We're gonna start with our third and fourth grade students. So we'll give that a shot this year and then kind of hit the ground running, with it for next year. And then the last thing, our BLT is working really hard on our elementary action plan. For next year. We recently finished up the SAMI, and really the feedback that we received was that we need to do more for social emotional learning for our students. Hence Sabres and a few other things that we kind of have in the works. But yeah, we're definitely working on a system to better identify and address those SEL needs with our students. But then, of course, another main part of our action plan for next school year is the big focus on the ELA curriculum, and always looking to how we can be more efficient in how we teach math.
Justin, can you explain what the SAMI is?
So the SAMI is you're gonna put me on the spot about the acronym. But basically, it's how we implement MTSS at all levels, but obviously looking specifically at the elementary. And it's basically a survey that we do internally, and it allows for a lot of reflection on how this school year has gone and the systems we have in place currently, and how we can do better in areas of reading, math, and social, emotional, behavior, mental health. And so the results of that is where we feel we have good, solid systems in place for identifying kids who are struggling academically, but not so much on the social emotional side of things. And we feel we have good processes in place to help those students get what they need academically, but it's the social emotional side where we need to do better.
Anybody else want to take a shot at what SAMI stands for?
Survey of Administrative MTSS Implementation.
It's no, it's self-assessment of the MTSS implementation.
Self-assessment management and inventory.
Yeah, because it covers like infrastructure, leadership.
I knew, I just wanted to see you guys.
We did it.
That's big. See, they don't even know all the acronyms.
I heard an acronym pile on top of an acronym.
MTSS
Yes.
That's your system.
Yep.
Got that cheat sheet done yet?
Yeah.
I'm working on it. It's growing.
Yeah, exactly.
There is one that exists somewhere.
All right. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Lutzring.
We are currently finishing up our third week of ISAS testing. We did all of our out-of-district kids last week. I should add all of our miles
You should.
and figure out how many miles we traveled.
So they have to test in person. So we have students in Diagonal,
Yeah, so
Monticello.
Tammy Eagles got to make the trip to Diagonal, 4.5 hour drive. So that was exciting for her. I think she really enjoyed that. So
You can see Missouri from Diagonal.
yeah. So we did all of our out of district kids last week. So we went to Monticello, Diagonal. Gosh, where else were we? Appleton. We went to Calmer. This week we're bringing in all of our Owine students, Starmont. Well, a couple Starmont kids. We went to Lamont 2 weeks ago. And then some Wapsie and West Central kiddos that we have. So they're all coming tomorrow and Wednesday to the Rams Center, and we're going to test out there. Our sophomores and juniors met with NICC last week to talk about 100% online college course options. So that's exciting that something else that is kind of cool about this is, so even though we have kids that are open enrolled to us, they could potentially take some college courses at campuses that are near them, but they would work with NICC to take those courses. So the opportunities are opening up. We just kind of had to figure out what that looked like. So that's exciting. Just when we thought our traveling was going to be done, we'll be traveling for FAST testing in the next couple weeks also to test our younger kids and our in-district kids as well. And then we are working on planning a celebration of bringing all of our O2 kids together at the end of the year like we did last year. So we've had a lot of input from the students on what they would like. So hopefully the bowling alley will let us maybe bowl during the day. We have to talk to Dean.
We know people.
So, but yeah, kind of exciting.
It's cool to watch Jacqueline work on some of those components. You know, we want to provide the exact same or just as good offerings that we do in a traditional setting. So like the college route, getting those kids' classes, when we propose those things to our partners, like at the college, it's like, oh yeah, no problem. And then they actually start to learn what's different about us, and you know, they're having to stretch their archaic systems to adapt to what we want to do. And you know, every time that you go over another hurdle, there's another one presented. But our partners have been good about trying to find solutions that can help us and continue to expand what O2 looks like and the offerings that we have for our kids.
Okay, Ms. Hampton.
Like Justin and Jacqueline just said, we finished a bulk of our ISASS testing last week. We will finish up the rest of them this week as it goes. The kids did a great job. We did goal writing on Monday, really took it seriously. Kids saw their scores. I don't know if they completely understood their scores, but there were conversations had about where they fell upon the scores. And so they all wrote goals and things to achieve. And some great discussions were had, is what I was told by teachers, that kids were really taking it seriously. So I hopefully will see the evidence in that in our results. This month, Ms. Unwin took a group of 6th and 7th grade tag students to Coralville. And like the quote says, this was an 11 out of a 10 day kind of day. The event was called International Day of Human Rights Conference, and the kids got to experience a Native Indian dance and just different things, and really opened their eyes to what's out there. And though the greatest thing was the cookies at lunch, and that they got to have as many as they wanted, but besides that, they really enjoyed the day. We had our spring play on April 1st. Which was a hit, and it was a perfect opportunity to showcase the new auditorium. And then finally, we're continuing to work on our building schedule for next year, knowing that we have a big class coming in, looking at what the possibilities are for that class, trying to hear people when they ask for recess and things like that. So really trying to be planning that right now, and we're gonna end the year strong, so we're excited.
Okay, any questions? Thank you, Mr. Hatley.
Good evening. I won't read all my reports. It's kind of matches a lot of what everybody else has said. We also did the self-assessment of MPSS implementation, known as the SAMI. April 5th, we took our 9th graders over to NICC. I got to drive that bus as well. It was a blast. I hadn't actually been to like the campus because last year with COVID and everything, but I was impressed with. We went over to Kalmar and just. They've got the robotic milking machines, the John Deere Tech Center, which is like one of the very few in the world. And they actually had the engines out that day, and a lot of kids were like really fascinated by just the work that they do there. I think it sparked some interest. 9th grade's a great time because they're starting to develop that 4-year plan, and we've started to use a new product that we purchased called Zillow, which is basically helps to create that plan, but also meshes it with their courses, so it gives them course options to take to where you want to go. So if I want to be, a mechanic, what courses would I take along the way at Oelwein High School, tied into NICC? It's actually a really intuitive, awesome program. It's not too early to start exploring those careers, and I was super impressed, and NICC did a great job of kind of speed dating all the different things, everything from, healthcare to, like I said, dairy association, so it was really awesome. This Friday, Ms. Stagg is taking all of our 11th graders and a couple of seniors to Waterloo, and they're going to explore some Earth Day activities. They're looking at some water filtration sites and actually a landfill and some different things. Kind of cool. Like it's part of their project-based learning in class. But really excited to get them out doing that. Rain hopefully holds off. May 4th coming up, we have an event with the Iowa Motor Truckers Association, and essentially there's a semi that's going to be a simulator that students can get in and actually drive. And we've also then tied that into several other local businesses. I think Brian Heavy Equipment's coming over, some other, I think Miller Construction's bringing some stuff. There's some different businesses locally that are going to bring some things, as well as the Iowa Army National Guard. And we're going to actually do it at the Old Armory, and I'm really excited about this because I think it's going to give hopefully somebody else a kickstart too. And that if you have watched that industry, if you have a CDL right now, you can get a job tomorrow. Like they're so short on not just truckers, but anything related to transportation, fueling, mechanics, all those things. So I'm hopeful that we can grab some kids. We're going to take all of our 10th graders over, and then any other students that were maybe a little bit interested in some select classes. Really excited about that. May 6th, we're going to participate in our second year. Last year, I got us involved in the Old Wine Day of Caring, so we're going to go out again as an entire high school, and we'll go to different areas and help the United Way kind of clean up Old Wine. We'll do that in the morning. I think Ms. Harrington has also arranged to do some work out at the softball, baseball fields with those teams, so they can kind of help prep their own diamonds and also give back. Again, great opportunity. Apparently, there's a dance coming up pretty soon of some type. I don't know. I don't pay attention, but sounds awful. We also had our Whatever It Takes awards. So we did our third quarter awards. We don't really have quarters anymore with SRG, but we were able to recognize over a dozen students for excellence, and always awesome. We'll do that again at the end of the year. And kind of unique, and probably not ready to roll it all out, but if you've been hearing or if you hear anything, so that way you're aware as a board, we are proposing to take a group of students to London. Right now we have 70 interested families. Probably won't have all of those go. Honestly, the more the better. It actually reduces the price. If we can get over 40, and we can have our own trip, so our own bus, all our own is actually kind of a sweet spot. But honestly, when we did it, I thought my wife was leading the trip, and I thought maybe we'd have a dozen interested. So to have 70, that's pretty awesome. Super excited. To my knowledge, we haven't done really an international trip here. My wife and I have led several previous work, and we've done some missions trip with youth before too. So really excited about that. That's open to 9-12 students, but also their families if they want to chaperone, a parent wants to go along or whatever. So we're going to try and do that in the spring of 2023 over spring break. We get 4 or 5 days in there. I think it's a 9-day trip, so they miss a couple days, but really trying to mitigate that risk. Super excited about that opportunity and other things like it as we begin to open up opportunities again for students to travel and see the world beyond Waterloo, Cedar Rapids, where I think some kids think kind of drops off after that. So we're excited. Any questions? Thank you.
Okay. No public hearing.
No public hearing.
All right. Discussion items, board policy 400 series.
All right. I need to reset the camera there. Give me a second. All right. So the 400 series is one of the largest series. It's second only to the 600 series, which goes over student education, which is what we do. But this 400 covers all staff. So a couple of the important ones, equal employment opportunity piece, conflict of interest outside employment. They don't come up very often, but they definitely protect the district and protect what we're trying to do. Licensed and classified evaluation is definitely something that we tie our evaluation processes to on an annual basis. They don't dive in too much, but it definitely gives us the power we need to evaluate our folks. It's being slow for me. The next section is insurance and staff and well-being, talks about substance-free workplace. These are all very much tied to state code. So the board, you don't have a ton of opportunity to really change these. Employee absences, interesting, we talk about student absences. We also are definitely taking a hit this year with employee absences, so this is an important one. This one is also very much covered in the staff handbook, where we probably have more room to play. And then you get into some more of the certified, part-time, and support positions in terms of what it looks like for dismissal and suspension. So tools that you hopefully don't have to use very often, but they are there to protect the board, they're there to protect the employee, and make sure that everybody follows the rules on due process. So pretty, like, a lot of legalese in this section, but again, it's important stuff, and it's stuff we want to make sure we have right. Any questions on any of these? Erica did find a typo and email it to me, so I fixed that already. It was a test to make sure that they're reading them. And she passed. All right, no questions, we can move on.
All right, then we're on to the NEIC and UIC conference update.
All right, I don't have anything to really present here, just to give a quick update. So since last meeting, when I shared the news that we'd got an invite from the Upper Iowa Conference, the schools that they're inviting in are ourselves, Osage, and then 3 NEIC schools, Waukon, Crestwood, and New Hampton. Since that time, there has been kind of an agreement amongst superintendents that if you kind of walk through the scenario of the schools joining together and leaving Decorah out in the cold, and Charles City out in the cold, and then in the meantime, the NEIC voted to force out Waverly. So Charles City maybe has some options to the west. Decorah does not have any options. So there's kind of a common agreement now that if those things happened, and they did not invite Decorah, that the state, the Decorah can appeal to the state, and the state can force them in. That they force the conference to take them in. So now it's kind of agreed that if that's the direction that they go, the other NEIC schools, Waukon, Crestwood, and New Hampton, then Decorah would come too. And then who knows about Charles City. So also in the meantime, the NEIC did vote, and they put out a press release that they have, they're asking or forcing, they're changing their bylaws to force Waverly out of the conference. They no longer align to the conference bylaws, and the vision and direction of the conference are just so much bigger than everybody else. It was a 5-1 vote with Waverly voting against. I do believe that all of those board meetings now have met. The boards all had to vote, and they were all expecting to vote for it. And so we'll find out, I think later this week, tomorrow maybe, if it passes. And then if it passes, I would expect by Friday that we'll have a formal invitation to the NEIC back in. So lots to evaluate. You kind of asked for more information. That is a little bit of the information I have. I have had meetings with all the schools that were invited to the Upper Iowa. So those 3 NEIC schools, Osage and us, we all had a meeting together just to discuss what it would all look like if that was a possibility. I think the conclusion was that it's just kind of a hot mess because nobody is really in a position to make a decision independently. That all the decisions really kind of, every piece has to make another domino fall for any one thing to work. And Osage is in a position in their conference where they're kind of like the Waverly, and everybody in that conference kind of wants them out. So they're kind of getting that pressure. We're in a position where we just left a conference and joined a conference. Sumner Fredericksburg has been invited in. There are schools to the west of our conference that are leaving. BCLUW is leaving. So there even is some upsetting of the apple cart in our current conference, and there's a lot of unknowns. A couple of us have suggested getting as many schools together as possible, and then having like a third party leader come in. So like an AEA chief or SAI's executive director, Roar Korn, has done these kind of things before, where they lead like a SWOT analysis, where you look at opportunities, things that could potentially hurt any one of the individual outliers. What are the things that would benefit everybody? What are the things that could benefit some individuals? And just trying to have some open dialogue and conversation about what any one of these things could look like. Again, the challenge is that we have as leaders, and you guys have as board members, is ultimately, it impacts us and us locally and our parents and our kids, and you want to provide them feedback and opportunity. And that's hard when it's not just us making one decision to go somewhere, that there are, we could make a decision to do this, but then the next week another board from another school could do that. And it's very unsettled. And so that makes it challenging. We're kind of trying to lead some of the conversation just so that we can get some answers to our questions. And we can provide you guys with the most information possible to make the best decision possible.
Any word from Sumner?
So probably not that I can say publicly, but I've heard several different things that make it hard to know what direction they're going. So
If they leave our current one,
yep.
and like you said, that BCLW, then we'd have to restructure.
Yeah, so pretty simply, if Sumner Fredericksburg left the NICL, one of the reasons that we joined the NICL was for the pods, so that we could really be close with the schools we were playing. Sumner Fredericksburg leaves, there would have to be a reshuffling or realignment of the NICL, and now we are probably going back to East and a West again, and we would be drawn into crossing over the Cedar Valley more frequently, playing Abington, Parkersburg, Dike more often than we do now. So I've told the NICL that that's not really favorable to us, and so that's I think where we would land. So I don't know that we're tied tightly to Sumner Fredericksburg, but I think that their decisions definitely would impact us more than anybody else. Anything, Jamie, from conversations you've had?
No, those are all the same conversations I've had with their ADs that was brought up in our last meeting that we had. And I just echoed those same thoughts when I was asked about it last week at our AD meeting. And it was just, we're exploring options. I expressed concerns if Sumner were to leave and we split to an East and a West, how the NICL was appealing to us, and those concerns were heard by everybody. It was also concerned by other schools in our pod as well, if we were to leave. So, yeah, they don't want to see us go.
We're pretty attractive date.
Yeah, we are.
Is MCIL looking at anyone else?
When they brought us in, there was talk that they would like to maybe go after schools like Hampton, Dumont, Iowa Falls to the west to create balance. And then I think, I don't know if I'm speaking out of turn, but New Hampton, I think, would be, and Sumner or North Fayette Valley have both been mentioned as kind of, again, to create a larger swath, maybe kind of to protect us a little bit to the north and to the east. but it doesn't sound like those are fruitful endeavors. So I guess we can continue to kind of play the role of learning and gathering information. I know that Jamie has started working on just communicating with the coaches and, starting kind of informally collecting some information from them. It's hard to gauge where people feel because you don't know what anything is going to look like, and that makes it really hard to make informed decisions. We can start the process of organizing and doing meetings like we did last time. I'm going to continue to work to see if we can't get something organized with kind of everybody in Northeast Iowa, just to try to have open dialogue so that we can all report back to our boards the best information we can. Other than that, I don't know what else. I mean, your guys' feedback is important. Keep learning, don't do anything, do something. We have 2 board members that weren't here when we made the decision last time, so your guys' feedback is important. Any feelings one way or another?
Just keep learning.
Keep learning. Okay.
I think it's definitely worth exploring, Josh. I mean, if you start thinking about the schools that would be relatively the same size as us, we'd be driving a lot less miles when you think of the Crestos, even Decorah, New Hampton, MFL. You could save our school district a lot of miles.
We'll stay after it.
All right, we're on to item 10, which is the consent agenda items.
We approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Second.
Bob Coe made the motion and Aaron seconded to approve the consent agenda items as presented. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand.
Opposed? Hand up.
Yep. Opposed, the same. Motion passes. Item 11 is to approve the cooperative soccer agreement with Sumner Fred and Tripola.
Yeah, so I think it was 2 months ago now, I kind of brought this up. It was 4 years ago, Bob, that we had a meeting with some of those community soccer folks and talked about pros and cons of starting on a soccer program, the challenges, and all concluded that the only way forward really that we could see if we were ever to make this possible was a shared agreement. So we reached out to as many schools as we could. Schools that already had soccer don't want us because it makes them too big. Independence is a perfect example. They would be us and Independence sharing would push them to the highest level where they're playing. We'd have to play Cedar Falls, Xavier, Dubuque schools, Waterloo schools, and it would be a challenge to be competitive. So, we put feelers out to Wapsie Valley, Starmont, West Central, Sumner Fredericksburg, et cetera, and their time was not a lot of interest. This last fall, Sumner Fredericksburg actually approached us, said, "Hey, are you still interested in doing that soccer program you guys suggested a few years ago?" I said, I think so. It'd be good for our kids. We still have some kids interested. It's a growing sport internationally and locally, even in Iowa. There certainly are challenges in doing so, but I'm all about creating opportunities for kids if that's what kids want to do. So some negotiations all started, and we wrote a sharing agreement. I think we also grabbed in Tripola. We started looking at numbers. We felt that on an annual basis, we could probably get 8 to 10 kids from both schools. And we think that we need 25 to 30 annually to really make a good team and to be competitive. And so we were kind of short. So Tripola said, "Hey, we're interested too." And so all 3 of us within, 25 minutes of each other, 30 minutes of each other, could pull together 25 to 30 kids on an annual basis to create a soccer program. So it will be named the Northeast Iowa Soccer Club, so that no team becomes like this is Sumner Fredericksburg team or Olwine's team. So it's an independent, unique name. No mascot at this point, so it's not like the Tigers or the Cougars or any animal. It's just the Northeast Iowa Soccer Club, and it has a color from each school. So we're the purple, Trapolo is the black, Sumner Fredericksburg is the gold. That's what would be the Baltimore Ravens would be your color scheme. Sumner Fredericksburg will host, they will play fiscal agent, and they will also coordinate transportation and all of the activity director work that goes into doing this. Olwine will purchase all of the upfront costs and then replace soccer equipment. So goals, balls, nets, cones, anything that's physical that's needed to play the game. So we think that for under $10,000 we can invest and get this thing going. And then Trapolo will purchase all the uniforms and maintain the uniforms that are needed. And then the players will be playing with the Iowa High School Athletic Association. So right now our intent is that it is a co-ed team. And if it's a boys team, they can be co-ed if it plays for the Athletic Association. Administrators all agreed that if we get enough girls, we'd like to start a girls program as well to branch off and have their own thing. Sumner Fredericksburg will hire and evaluate the head coach. Olwine will provide the assistant coach. Our hope is that we can find somebody here locally that would be willing to drive. That's going to be a key component. If transportation's an issue, kids won't do it. But if we have a coach here that can recruit kids and then transport back and forth, it really makes the whole thing work. I've been a part of other sharing agreements before in other districts, and that really is the secret sauce to getting kids doing it, is having someone local to recruit them and then help transport them and be that person that can hold them accountable while they're on when they're traveling back and forth and that kind of stuff. Other than that, each school signs 5-year deal. See if we can't make a go of it. So I'd recommend approval.
I'll make a motion to approve the cooperative soccer agreement.
Erin made the motion and Joni seconded to approve the agreement as presented. Any discussion?
Who wants to coach?
Seriously?
You just kick it, right?
I think so.
I get kicked around all day.
I've seen some games, and that's
There's a lot of
about that's about my understanding of it.
The Ladybugs, is that Rodney Dangerfield?
Great movie. I also like Big Green, another good one. Yeah, Kicking and Screaming. That's another good one. Will Ferrell.
Coach Ditka.
Off the reservation.
That's my contribution.
Did we get a vote? I don't even know if we voted.
Nope. That was our discussion. We digressed a little. All right. Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Pose the same. All right, motion passes. We are on to approve the creation of a girls wrestling program.
All right, let's see if I can do this right.
Far left.
Oh, yep. Thank you.
Yep, and then present. There you go. You can do it next to you. Bob's in the way, that's okay.
All right, so as we've been discussing as well in our board meetings, in January, the state has sanctioned girls wrestling as a standalone program. So to help kind of clarify and just get some information out, put together a little presentation for this evening to just put it, down on paper, so to speak, to get through it and answer any FAQs we might have. So the general information that the state has come out with, we will have 14 weight classes, and we will compete as one class, so not like a 1A, 2A, 3A. Everybody will compete in one class, and we're hoping in that way that we'll be able to share with the districts around us. We have heard from some neighboring districts that they are interested. We have enough girls to support a standalone program here in Oline. 6 to 8 has been kind of our norm at the high school level. In addition, we have 2 female wrestlers this last season at the middle school level. So hopefully with a standalone program, those numbers would increase, and then gathering that interest from surrounding districts as well. A few ADs from our current conference have expressed some interest, as well as some outside of our conference in sending girls this way. The cool thing about this is that girls will be able to practice together 7-12. So I think that's a really great opportunity to have that leadership from our upperclassmen down to our middle school students and work towards building that bridge between the high school and middle school, which I know Jenny Kay and I have been working on quite a bit this year anyways. A lot of similarities will carry over from what we currently see with the boys program. I'll jump to the second point. So it's a folk style wrestling, so that's what the boys currently do at the high school level. It's not like an AAU where there's the freestyle or the Greco or anything like that. It'll be a folk style wrestling. And then the meets to start with will be ran similarly to junior high or middle school meets, so the scrambles. So it's not like a dual or a triangular, you're just slotting kids and getting them matches where they can with the time in between matches where you can. Just with how many girls there are until we build up programs, with it being so new, that's how meets and things will look like for now. So general timeline of what this will look like. The season will start October 31st, which is the same as girls basketball, and November 14th will be the first competition. The regular season will have 15 varsity dates, and then how state will work. The Extreme Arena down in Coralville held state this last year, and they will continue to host girls state wrestling this year, which will be held on February 2nd and 3rd, and then there'll be 8 qualifying sites across the state on the 27th or 28th, just depending on site availability. They haven't quite nailed those down yet. So pretty normal timeline as far as winter sports seasons are concerned. And then I think I have just one more slide. So as far as logistics go, what we're looking for, 2 coaches, a head and assistant, and we're gonna try very, very hard to get a female coach, if at all possible, and one who is qualified applies for liability reasons. As well, and then looking at facility spaces, we're very blessed in this district to have as great of facilities as we do. We have 3 facilities already to wrestle in. We have our high school room, we have the church, and the middle school wrestling room. So as far as practice space is concerned, we don't necessarily have to fight over space, which I know has been a very big concern from other ADs and other schools is, well, where is everybody going to practice? Are we gonna have to split times in the morning and after school? What's it going to look like? That, to me, is not a concern for us. So, that's kind of it in a nutshell. What questions are there about what it would look like before we can approve having our first ever girls wrestling team?
Do they practice right after school? So they would have to choose between basketball or wrestling.
So that's part of what would be yet to explore, which is unfortunately still have some of those unknowns that come with this. At the middle school level, it all kind of depends on what happens with the split season. That's up in the air still with the conference. And most conferences or all conferences I should say, who have a split season is where are we going to put it? Because we have girls and boys wrestling, or girls basketball and wrestling right now. So do you put girls basketball and boys wrestling here, and then boys basketball and girls wrestling on the second part of the split season? And what does that look like? And then at the high school level, students can do both. You see schools like Osage and Charles City and Waverly do that, which is why they have these huge programs. But now that it's sanctioned and at this level, how sustainable will that be for programs? Because kids will at some point have to choose, and I don't know if it's the best idea to make kids do that and put them in the middle So it's not a great answer. I'm sorry. It all kind of depends to just how many kids we have out and if they want to do both.
Yeah, we've had authentic numbers with our high school wrestling, where those, you do see that there are other schools that have these huge numbers, 20, 25 kids, but they are 60 to 70% basketball players too, which is good that kids are doing it. But I think when you look at an actual program, an actual full schedule, regular practice, it's going to drive, those schools are going to have lower numbers. And I think our numbers are only going to grow because it's been authentic. At the junior high level, there's tons of opportunity now. It's always been kind of a thorn in my side with the split junior high season. Perfect example this year, our girls were done playing junior high basketball December 22nd, and they played their next, or had their next competitive event, which was the Dyke track meet that I drove the bus to, April 12th. So that's a pretty significant gap of competition that is the furthest thing from equitable that a person could design. So this will help solve some of those problems, but it will present other problems. And I think we don't know yet how all those will be unpacked. As we get to them, we'll do our best to do what's best for kids and, allow if possible. I mean, we've allowed multiple sports in them. Golf and track and tennis and track. So when possible, we've seen kids play football and run cross country. It is hard for those kids, but it's possible, and we've never really said no if they want to try it. So I know you have some girls that like both, so.
I was just
Well, I think it's a good question. And my concern is not that the kids can't do it, it's that just from my limited experiences, you've got two coaches pulling at kids at the same time. And that's not what I want to see happen. They can make their own decisions if they want to do both, but I don't like to see that going on between two coaches, and that's where I think it takes good management on your folks as part of this, explain to coaches that can't be going on.
Yes. Good administrator can take care of all that. We're looking for one. I know. I would recommend approval. I'm excited about the opportunity. I think that we have the right kids here right now, and I think that we have talent locally that will take the challenge on to build a successful girls program, and will be something that we can lead in our area and in the state. No reason that we can't be one of those 8 sites that host a qualifying location. So.
I move we approve the creation of a girls wrestling program.
sorry.
Bob called me in the motion and Joni seconded to approve the wrestling program as presented. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same. Motion passes. C is to approve the K-5 ELA 6-year resource curriculum purchase.
It's a mouthful.
Whatever that is, then that's.
Savvis is a company.
Savvis.
I don't have any idea if that's I don't know if it's an acronym or not, but it's a company. So about 18 months ago, the ELA, or the English Language Arts team for the elementary, kind of started talking about needing to get some alignment together on resources. It was a project that I had even told Mr. McGinnis about when we hired him 3 years ago.
Yep.
That this was something that was going to be coming. That it was time for us to start having conversations. It gets to the point where when you're not tight on something, the teachers kind of start to pick their own things, their favorites. It becomes difficult to bring new teachers into that. It becomes challenging to know strengths and weaknesses. It just creates a lot of problems, and then we're constantly solving those problems. So the team kind of went out and found 6 to 8 curricular resources, and then we did kind of a long-term evaluation of what those were, scored them, and then found the 2 highest from that group. Contacted those sales reps and then negotiated with them, bringing in and doing pilots. Our 1st and 3rd grade being in the same building this fall, we got the resources in October, first part of November. They took 2 teachers from each grade level, took 2 different curriculums, and then ran them through their paces for 6 weeks, and then they flip-flopped. So the other 2 took the curriculum, and then the other 2 took the other set of curriculum. And through that process and all the other teams looking at it, they went through kind of the paces, and then all of them came back and looked at the data, looked at student test scores. Our instructional leadership team looked at it. We had kind of a subcommittee looking at it. Our instructional leader, or our ELA team came together, and it was, I don't know if it was an overwhelming consensus, but it was a strong consensus to select My View, which is delivered by Savvis. Savvis came in, and we notified them that we wanted a kind of a bid. And so this is what they presented. This is the exact same, a 6-year term is the exact same amount of dollars as a 3-year contract. So basically what we get for 6 years is the reproducibles for an entire school year for kindergarten through 5th grade. So 6th grade levels get entire year's worth of reproducibles at, it ends up being about $27,000 per grade level, but divide that over 6 years, and you're in a few $1,000s per grade level. All the teacher resources are free. I think you're paying for them, but they throw them in as well. So it was within the scope and the budget that we were thinking about. We did budget this money in our ESSER funds. This does qualify as, what's the term they use?
Learning loss or learning loss?
It should be learning loss because it's research based. So we should be able to classify it as that. Anyway, this just breaks down all the different things that we get. It's pretty significant, and I'm excited for our teachers. I think there's a ton of opportunity here for them to get vertically aligned, to have some better conversations across grade levels, to get more common language from grade level to grade level, and start to maybe see some impacts in 2 or 3 years after we go through kind of the implementation bubble, because it will take 2 or 3 years to really start to see the impacts year to year. Teachers are going to start teaching things they maybe haven't taught before. They have to stop teaching some things they haven't taught before. There's quite a bit of professional development and support that goes into implementation this large, but it's pretty significant, which goes into the amount of time that we spent evaluating it and putting all of our energy into making sure that we get something that we felt was right. One of the most powerful things that I find in these evaluations is that the teachers have found that their practices and what they have been doing is actually pretty good, that it looks similar to what these professional, publications are putting together and bringing to them. But there is a need for a resource like this to support instruction in the classroom on a daily basis. Do you have anything you want to add, Justin?
No, I mean, just want to reiterate that it really helps kind of create that commonality K-5 even, so it's not just elementary that's going to positively impact, but middle school as well.
And we use it at O2 also. We used it this year. So now everybody will have the same resource, which will be nice.
And I think it certainly makes things less intimidating for new teachers who come on board, where they don't have to try and figure out our scales and assessments and this resource and that resource. It's, okay, here's a book, and if you need to, you can teach from this word for word, if you need to. But at the same time, it also helps honor our more veteran teachers where they still have that flexibility and that autonomy to do more of the art of teaching that they certainly worked, their entire career for. So I think, all in all, it would be a huge benefit, to more than just elementary, but one as a whole.
Recommend approval.
If the state changes their requirements, then they tweak that.
Good question. I don't foresee the state changing their requirements, but let's just say that they would in 5 or 6 years. Chances are there would be an implementation process that the state would give us. So when they have introduced new standards or they've updated them, we typically get a 1 or 2 year notice that it's happening, and then once they roll them out, you have a 3-year implementation period. So that alone is a 5-year swing. So there's nothing on the radar that they're looking to do that. So worst case scenario, they did, they'd have to do it this year, start having a conversation this year for us to kind of be out of phase by the time this whole thing rolls out. Yeah. That's like moving the Titanic. It's super slow for those things to change. But they do change them, so you're not wrong to think about that.
Hey Josh, on there you showed $14,000 for shipping and handling. Did somebody investigate and see why that would be $14,000 for that?
So that would cover the cost of shipping the materials over the course of 6 years, and it will be pallets full of books. I'm happy to dig into it, but that number didn't actually surprise me. I'll look into it, Bobby. You have got certainly more experience in shipping than I do.
And it just seems like, we ship 40,000 batteries from Pennsylvania to Iowa for about $1,200, so it just seems a lot.
Yeah, I'm happy to dig into that. I was hoping that you were going to maybe give some feedback. I'm sure that you heard some things at home about the pilots.
Yeah, I've heard some news about it so far, yeah.
Yeah, just stand. All right, I think I need a motion. We're kind of in the discussion phase, but. Right?
Yeah, well, yeah.
I'm like,
motion.
nobody, I have
No
nothing
motion.
written down, okay.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Aaron made the motion and Bob called second to approve the My View publication as presented. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same, motion passes. D is to approve the first reading of Board Policy 300 series.
We discussed these last month. There was no significant changes and nothing from ISB in the primers. So recommend approval as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the first reading of Board Policy 300 series. I'll second.
Aaron made the motion and Joni seconded to approve the Board Policy 300 series. Discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same, motion passes. E is to approve the girls' basketball team travel out of state to Winona.
I think that's all the information that you need. Recommend approval.
I recommend approval. The girls' basketball team travel out of state for a team camp. Seconded.
Joni made the motion and Erica seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same, motion passes. F is to approve the transfer of ESSER funds to the nutrition fund.
Yep, I bring these to you quarterly because that's when we file the claims to the state is quarterly. This is for quarter 3, moving the money from the general fund to the nutrition fund for the Q3 expenses. So we pay a couple people with ESSER funds in nutrition. So that the amount there, 10,372.23, that's the cost of third quarter.
Move to approve the required transfer to ESSER funds as presented.
Bob Cowell made the motion, Aaron seconded to approve the transfer as presented. Discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same, motion passes. G is to transfer ESSER funds to the general PEPAL fund.
Yeah, so same concept here, but this is for the portion of the construction project that we had approved through the state to be funded through ESSER money. So this is the third quarter total of how much we've spent with those particular vendors. So 314,052.05 is the amount for third quarter.
Move to approve the required transfer of ESSER 3 funds to the general fund, PEPAL.
I'll second.
Bob Cowell made the motion, Aaron seconded to approve the transfer as presented. Discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same, motion passes. H is to approve the high school graduation list.
Mr. Hadley, you want to say anything about your graduates?
Yeah, this group fought through 2 years of COVID and still came out on top. Had 3 principals, maybe 4 or 5, depending on how you do it. I would definitely recommend approval. The graduation will be in the high school gym on the 22nd at 2 p.m. All of you will be there, but definitely we encourage our staff to attend today, try and get teachers to go as well. So really excited for this opportunity, and some of them are looking forward to it more than others. Many of them are very sad to leave us.
Over there.
I'll make a motion to approve the graduation list.
I'll second.
Aaron made the motion, Erica seconded to approve the list as presented. Discussion. All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same, motion passes. I is to approve the Owine online graduation list.
You're up.
Sweet, I'm not gonna stand. We've had a lot of seniors that have worked really hard to want to walk with their classmates that maybe got behind in credits, and have really worked their tails off this year, and it's been pretty awesome to see. And pretty exciting, because they will be the first group that have Owine Online High School on their diplomas. Last year we had Owine Online grads, but they were still under the umbrella of Owine High School. And we're walking together, which I think will be really cool as like a community school district graduation, so I think that'll be neat.
Yeah, I think it's like the 130 something graduating class from the high school and the first graduating class for Owine Online. So pretty significant.
I'll make a motion to approve the online graduation list.
I'll second.
Aaron made the motion, Joni seconded to approve the list as presented. Discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same. Motion passes. Item J is to approve the settlement.
So just a couple days after our last board meeting, we met for the final time with the Support Staff Association, and we were able to come to an agreement of 4.544%, which amounts to a 69-cent raise across the board for all positions. nearly gets every starting position to $13. You guys know if you just drive around town, you can see all the job openings, and everybody's anywhere from $14, $15, $19 an hour. So I'm trying to stay pace and be competitive, and we took a pretty good swing at it, I think, and appreciate the work that these folks do. It is a thankless job. It is a hard job, one that we could not do without them. So enthusiastically recommend approval.
I approve the settlement.
I'll second that.
Joni made the motion and Bob Call second to approve the settlement as presented. Discussion. All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same. Motion passes. Michael.
Brief report here, the contracts for those folks will be sent out this week, and we'll be starting up benefits enrollment, the following week. So I'll be in Ames Wednesday through Friday for training, and then we'll jump into, benefits open enrollment season, the following Monday. So, thank you.
I had a busy month with negotiations. We're trying to wrap up Wings Park. It feels like at this point, like the last mile of a marathon is the longest mile. That's what it feels like. Lockers are still a significant piece that I believe they've been delivered, but they're pre-assembling in a shop, so we have not seen them yet. And then there were some wall panels that were defective from the manufacturer that started getting installed back in January that we're still waiting for delivery on. We expect delivery this week. Those two pieces are going to make the building look 99.9% done, but because they're pretty significant things for your eyeballs, it doesn't look quite done in the inside. But last week we punched out all the classrooms, and they went through and have started taking care of those punch list items. Tomorrow we're punching out the rest of the building, and they were packing gravel to pour concrete for the playgrounds and the basketball courts and those kind of things on the outside. If you've been by there, the new lights are up. I don't know, things are starting to really come together. So hopefully in the next week or two, we can kind of put a ribbon on it, and inevitably we got to start commissioning stuff. We got the fire marshal through there. You guys approved the caller notification system tonight that we had to do. So there's a lot of pieces to put together. It's essentially a brand new building, so excited to get that wrapped up. And then we've hired new transportation director, which you guys approved tonight, who's here tonight. So welcome Nathan. Excited to have him on board to start. And a new transition too, since we're no longer sharing with Starmont. He'll be full-time here, and we can definitely use a full-time person and those set of hands. And then we've also hired Derek Kennan as an interim principal to backfill for Mr. Hadley in his military service. So that you guys approved that tonight as well. And I look forward to getting Derek kind of going and growing his capacity as a leader in the district. He's done a lot of good things for us as a teacher on the union side of negotiations and really impressed us. And so we're excited to see him in that new role. And then, let's see, professional development, just trying to, I don't know, principals have shared that it's kind of like having one foot in this year and 1 foot in next year, kind of back to till February. But I think, I don't know, after this week, it's pretty much felt like a lot of feet in next year, trying to get things ready, all ready for next school year. So we're talking about summer and hiring for summer school and TLC positions for next year, and definitely underway for hiring positions for next year. So 2022-23, here we come. So I am going. I'll be gone 2 days. The AA is bringing in Ruby Payne, who is an internationally known trainer on poverty. So I'll be going to Dubuque for 2 days at the end of the month to participate in a training with my colleagues, other superintendents from around Northeast Iowa. It's the first time that we've done anything like this for our learning in it's my time here, so I'm excited about the opportunity.
Alright, discussion, Bob, Joan, Erica, Aaron, Bob, you have anything?
I'm good.
Okay. Alright, business after 5 is at the middle school Wednesday?
This Friday, 5 o'clock. We have 5 teachers, We have this Wednesday. What did I say? Next Wednesday?
Friday.
Jeez.
Jumping the leap on it.
I am. Wednesday, 5 o'clock, middle school. 3 teachers will be awarded the Teacher of the Year, and brand new this year too. We have 3 Employees of the Year as well. So associates and support staff were included this year for the very first time. So we're excited to nominate and award some of them who very deserving on Wednesday, not Friday.
Alright, I just need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. I'll second.
Joni made the motion, Aaron seconded. All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, same. Motion passes 8:30.
Good job.
Not bad.